I thought we had a good day today. Obviously, the weather was beautiful. We had a good practice. The tempo of practice was about what we expected. We slowed it down a little bit during team period because we had a couple linebackers that got banged up this week, so we were really down to 1.5 linebackers per position, so we weren't really too deep. But other than that, we got some quality work. Gave the fans a chance to see some of the quarterbacks throw that they'd wanted to see throw, and Tyreek Hill was out there, and Devontae, he got banged up this week, so he didn't get to practice today. Dax Garman got banged up yesterday, so he didn't get to practice today. But overall, it was good for us. Looking forward to next week's practice. It's good to have some former players here. Josh Fields and then Russell Okun, Super Bowl champion, was here and showed up. So it's a good day. We've got to get back to the videotape and get back to work on Monday. We don't know. He turned his knee, and so we weren't going to let him practice today. We'll know more on Monday.
You fear it could be bad? Like you don't have any idea, or
we don't know.
So
yeah. I hate to ever say one way or the other. I've not been very good at that.
And you know on the internet, stuff like ACL.
Well, I would never say anything about anyway. One, I don't know for sure, and neither do the people on the internet. Because if I knew, I would tell you I knew for sure, and I would give you the information, or I'd say I didn't want you to know. But that's not true.
Okay.
It's a good story, though.
Is that message board stuff?
No, it was your Twitter feed. No, I'm kidding.
I can guarantee it wasn't my Twitter feed.
Those things are going to be out there now. You're never going to, you can't battle what would be an online chat room or whatever it would have been.
Sure.
But there's not been anything.
Okay.
I think that he'll be fine.
Okay.
But I would hate to say one way or the other.
Yeah.
What are you seeing from your quarterbacks, Mike, and kind of where do you feel like you are with that right now?
Oh, I think we're fine. JW is coming along, and we've seen him for a number of years. And Mason's doing well. He's a high school kid out there running around playing. We're really inexperienced on the offensive line, especially the twos this spring. We just don't have that much depth. We have two starters that aren't even out there with us. And so for that reason, when the twos are out there, it's not easy for a quarterback. Those guys are giving us everything, but they're inexperienced. Those 5 guys that are out there have never played at this level. And so it's not easy for those guys to function. But they're coming along just fine. Dax is doing good. And Hubinak's doing fine. So we're making some strides there.
Mike, what do you think about the format today compared to a traditional spring game?
Well, for what we needed, I think it was exactly what we should have done. We would all like to have a spring game. I mean, years ago, I was the guy promoting spring games. But I also have to look at what's best for our team and what's best for the fans. And, well, for example, we only ended up with 1 linebacker at 2 positions today. It would have been hard to have an orange team and a white team. He would have had to switch jerseys every other series. And to me, that's not as effective, it's not as fun for the crowd. And what would have happened is we'd have been limited to a couple formations on offense, and sub-packages would have happened on defense because there's not enough bodies for both teams. So I think it's better the way we did it today. And hopefully we'll have this issue again 4 or 5 years from now. If we have 28 seniors that are in our program, then I'll be happy. But every so often we'll have to do that. For example, next year we'll have a smaller senior class and a signing class of anywhere from 14 to 16. Well, you're not going to have a problem having a spring game. You should be able to divide up your numbers.
What kind of a spring has Blake Webb had? He looked pretty good out there today.
He did. He's had a good spring. You know, he and Austin, I mentioned, both those guys had injuries last year and set them back. But they've had a good off season. They've come back and they've played well, and he's made some plays.
When you look at leadership on this team, you look at guys like Castleman, maybe defensive line, because you've got so many guys coming back there.
Our defensive line and wide receivers are the deepest positions that we have, and they're the most experienced. And I think we'll be better on the defensive line next year than we were this year. That's my personal opinion. I think we'll be better at wideout next year than we were last year. We'll see. They have to stay healthy, work ethic, all those things we talk about all the time are very, very important. But the maturity we have at those positions is what you would have on a normal year when you didn't have 28 seniors. And so those positions are in good shape right now. The other ones, we're still developing young players.
Coach, having Hill at running back, is that because you have so much confidence about the rest of your receiving core, or you just feel like he's a better fit mostly at running back? Break down where you got to see him fitting in.
We worked him, we've split him out and worked him out there. We throw to him. And then over the last week or so, we put him in the backfield. And so we need to make a decision early in August, middle August, where we want to play him. And part of it's how he develops. We have to see how he adjusts to the physical part of football at this level. and what's the best way for us to get him the football. We would like to be able to allow those guys to touch the ball 10, 15 times a game somewhere, just like with Josh Stewart. When we came off the field and Josh only touched the ball 3 or 4 times a game, well, then I never felt good about our plan as a coach. Sometimes the defense can dictate that. So maybe if we can play him at running back some and receiver some, then we can get him enough touches to help our offense.
How are Rennie Childs and some of these other running backs progressing?
Rennie's coming along. They're still young, and there's a pattern and there's a path you have to take in order to play running back at this level. You have to take hits, and you got to get sore and tired and keep playing and take hits and take care of the football. And he's about halfway through that process. Des Rowland wasn't out there with us this spring. Des is in good enough condition now and is good enough shape to go out and play, but we're not going to let him because it doesn't make any difference at this point. But he should carry most of the load. But we need Rennie, Tyreek, and whoever else could step up in that position. We need those guys to carry the load like what Jeremy Smith did last fall. I would be careful to really extend myself, but I would say that we'll be better at that position than we were last year also.
Recruits develop at certain stages. It looks like C.J. Curry has come along since last season, and it looks like his brother off a redshirt year, and he's playing number 2 corner, looking pretty confident.
He did okay. He's really young. He hadn't been out there. When they go through a redshirt year, they go through a stage where they're just out there. But we like what he brings to the table. I think that last year's defensive class that we signed may have been the best one ever, that group. We'll see how they develop in about a year. Once they get into that second year and third year, they'll start to show up. And hopefully they can give us what we had from this last group. And CJ's making some plays. He just has to continue to work hard. I think he puts too many balls on the ground. He's doing a better job of catching the football. He's better now than he was at this time last year, but if he's going to play in our offense and play at a high level, he's got to make more consistent catches when people are on their back. They're at a little disadvantage this spring because the DBs now can close their eyes and they know what routes those guys are running. But for the most part, he needs to continue to play hard. He's a physical receiver. He needs to block, just like Blackman and Tracy Moore and those guys did. And then he needs to be more consistent in catching the football.
With a week to go, is there any position group you had a question about and that question's been answered?
Well, I have a lot of questions because I'm inexperienced.
Sure.
Experience and depth give coaches, at least me, a comfort zone. And your defensive line, your wide receivers, and potentially your running backs.
Okay.
But we don't know because we didn't have all those guys out there.
Sure.
Other than that, we're really young.
Okay.
For the most part, we're young at corner. Peterson and Lampkin are back. They've played some, but they haven't played a lot. We're young at safety. We have all new linebackers. A couple guys played a little bit, but and then offensive line with the departure of Jenkins and Cross. We still have Chris coming back. We still have Devin Davis coming back. We still have Garrett coming back. And then Paul Lewis. Those guys have a little experience. Other than that, you're looking at a group of guys that hadn't played at this level. So I do like where our kicker's at. He's improved. He's gone through the process of developing a little bit. He's stronger. Rob's done a great job with him in the weight room. I know people think, a kicker in the weight room, but we've seen a considerable difference with our kickers and punters after they've been with Rob for a year, and I think that's where we're at with Grogan, and he's improved. We're developing a new holder, we're developing a new snapper, and those guys are doing fine. So that was a long answer for, other than those 2 positions, I always have issues because I like putting guys out there that are experienced, so when it gets going and it gets cranked up in a big way, they don't start looking around and have that deer in the headlight look.
Center was something